And we are back. Today, guys, we're starting the YouTube Iceberg, and we're starting off with the YouTube Adpocalypse. Now, as I explained in the last one, if you don't know what an iceberg is, it's basically like it's a picture of an iceberg with about 8 tiers or less, and as you go down the tiers, it just gets worse and worse. So we're starting off from tier 1 today, the YouTube Adpocalypse. Like, subscribe, and enjoy. Now, the YouTube Adpocalypse was used to describe the way in which YouTube wanted more child-friendly or family-friendly content, and so they basically, I've got a little article up here, as usual. They basically sort of shifted the focus towards all this family-friendly material, and a ton of, let's call it, adult channels really took the hit for this. Now, one of the reasons that this happened was because in February 2017, and some of you guys might remember, a small YouTuber by the name of PewDiePie, he decided one day that it was a good idea to put on his Hitler hand-me-downs and pretend to be a Nazi. I don't know if you guys remember that, but I certainly do, and it was definitely not a dream. Okay, and he came under fire for this, and he came under fire hard. And what these, let's call them snowflakes, these YouTube basically deemed this video anti-Semitic and hate speech. Now, at the time, this was just a joke, okay? You had to be really, really sensitive to take this seriously because it's PewDiePie. I like the guy, okay? I think he's one of the best. He's kept so many subscribers. I don't even know how many he's on now. I mean, I haven't watched him in a while, but I know he's out there and he's still making content and everybody loves it, okay? So yeah, this was this joke that he did on a YouTube video one time. Pretty sure it's been taken down now, unless it hasn't. You can probably still find it re-uploaded on YouTube. And it included jokes about Hitler. And if you remember, he paid 2 Indian men on Fiverr to hold up a sign that said, "Death to all Jews." Please don't take that out of context, because I will get done for it. And yeah, that was basically what happened. So this, obviously, PewDiePie, one of the biggest YouTubers, if not the biggest YouTuber at the time. Well, he was probably fighting T-Series at the time. We'll talk about that more. That's in the Iceberg tier 1, as well as about 4 other PewDiePie things. So yeah. So, at the time, biggest YouTuber, PewDiePie, paid these 2 Indian men on Fiverr, and that's when YouTube really cracked down with the first Adpocalypse. And it was around this time where people like Chief Keef was dancing to a song called Alabama, I'm not going to say it, Hard R N-word. You know what I'm on about. It was a video of Chief Keef dancing to this song, and they've called it other extremist content basically surfaced to YouTube, and obviously YouTube were very angry about this. We don't want anti-Semitic hate speech on our website, and they basically stabbed everybody in the back. So all of these companies, like I've got here UK government, Coca-Cola, Dr. Pepper, Johnson & Johnson, and a ton of brands basically stopped their advertisements on YouTube, and they weren't happy about it. Okay, now just 3 months after that, an advertisement was released for Pepsi, which included Kendall Jenner. Some of you might remember this one too. I think I watched it once or twice and I didn't quite understand what it was about. Basically, it was something to basically point out things about civil rights and all that kind of stuff. It was basically Kendall Jenner with a can of Pepsi, or a bottle of Pepsi, and she gave it to a police officer like it was the most important thing in the world. And people really kicked off about this because it apparently was devaluing the topic of police brutality against mostly black people. So yeah, they thought that this advertisement was basically saying, here, have a Pepsi and stop beating up people. Policeman, please. That's basically what it was. It was seen as, and this caused a huge outcry across the whole of YouTube. Nobody could get over it for weeks, and Pepsi basically removed all their advertisements, as if they needed any of it. Shit, it's one of the biggest companies in the world. But yeah, I remember seeing that advert once and thinking, really? So then over the summer months, a couple of months after this, a ton of YouTubers started making more family-friendly content. They basically started joking about the net worth going down. The views were going down if they weren't, making family-friendly content. Everything would be affected, like if it had swearing in it, if there was darker jokes in it, if it was horror, if it had a bit of blood in it, all that. YouTube started cracking down on that, and a lot of YouTubers started complaining about not getting the income that they deserved from these videos, which I suppose is fair enough, because if you're working, 8-9 hours a day on a YouTube video, to put it on YouTube, to get it demonetized because it's not family friendly, I think that's fair enough to have a little bit of a rant about. I don't think there's anything wrong with being paid by YouTube to upload content, but when it's your literal job and they're cracking down because your content isn't considered safe for work, I think that's a little bit ridiculous. I mean, YouTube is a place where, to some extent, people can upload whatever they like, and if it makes them money and they get famous from it, they need to have basically a proper sort of, I'm not going to say payroll, but they need an income. They need an income. So if they're earning that income from YouTube, they need to keep earning that income. Otherwise, it all just goes to shit. So I can completely understand where the YouTubers were coming from, the big YouTubers were coming from at the time. Now keep in mind that there were actually 4 Adpocalypses. And in November 2017, there were a lot of concerns regarding improper kids content on YouTube. Whether this was around the time of YouTube Kids, I'm not sure. That's another Iceberg tier 1 sort of thing we'll talk about sometime. But this one included some more brands like Mars, Adidas, HP and Deutsche Bank. Deutsche Bank, did I pronounce that correctly? Because it's not called Douche Bank. Yeah, they basically pulled their ads from YouTube because of improper kids content. One of the publishing channels that apparently published this improper kids content was actually called Toy Freaks, and that had 8.5 million subscribers at the time. So they were obviously making a lot of income from this, and all them 8.5 million subs they had just gone from the platform because of the second apocalypse in November 2017. I don't know how I'd feel with 8.5 million subs and then just losing them all. God. Now in January 2018, YouTube updated its policies even more, and they basically restricted their partner program to basically channels that had more than 1,000 subs and more than 4,000 watch hours per year. and obviously this caused to small creators like me, possibly at the time if I was doing this, and other creators, this caused a massive stir, especially from those smaller creators, of course. And then during this time, I can't believe this was this long ago. You guys remember the Logan Paul video where he went to the Japanese forest, the suicide forest, I've forgotten the real name for it, and he showed a corpse in his video. This is another tier video, by the way. We're going to go into more detail on this one too. There's a lot of stuff in here that I'm going to be going into more detail in the future. And everybody then believed that YouTube were now punishing them in this case because of Paul's actions. And I remember that video. I didn't see it actually, and I can't find it anywhere. I could never find it anywhere. But everybody believed that YouTube updated these policies because of Logan Paul being a prick, which he is. I'm sorry. Yeah, fuck that guy. Now we move on to the third adpocalypse, and this one gets a little bit weird. So on the February 18th, 2019, Matt What It Is, you might know him, he posted a video and he referred to a channel as a bunch of channels, and referred to them as softcore paedophilia rings. I've not looked into this one. I don't even want to. And they basically blamed it on YouTube's algorithms. And then he just went ape and told his whole fan base to report it to the companies that put their ads on the site, with the hashtag YouTube wake up thing on Twitter, which I actually saw quite a few times. So YouTube responded to this, and they basically deleted more than 400 channels and got rid of millions of comments over millions of videos, because that's what YouTube does. If it doesn't like something, it'll delete it and forget about it forever. I mean, they did try fixing it, I suppose, and reported basically offenders, maybe people who were included in this paedophilia ring on YouTube. They reported them to the law. I don't know how that went. Now, due to this, a lot of companies who had come back from the second adpocalypse actually ended up taking their advertisements down again, because of this thing that had happened with the channels and the comments. They basically, these companies they were like Disney, Dr. Oetker, Hasbro, Epic Games, Nestle and AT&T. They'd only just put their ads back on the site a month earlier, after 2 years of them getting taken down back in 2017. And of course this started the third adpocalypse. Now, even worse is that people actually got angry at Matt What It Is, blaming him for another apocalypse, when he was clearly trying to do the right thing by calling out this ring on the site to YouTube, which obviously garnered a lot of attention, which started this whole thing off. Now, I don't really think it was... Now, it says here that obviously the community found it to be the wrong approach, which is a bit weird, really, because if you had something to say about a disgusting piece of stuff like that, you know, a big paedophilia ring on YouTube, the first thing you want to do is call it out. Now, people were actually saying to Matt What It Is, oh, it's going to hurt creators in the long run. Okay, but you've ultimately just saved the site, so gotta give it to you there, Matt. That's some good stuff. So now we move on to the final adpocalypse, the fourth adpocalypse. On May the 24th, 2019, Vox reporter Carlos Maza began contacting YouTube, demanding that they demonetize and get rid of all the hate speech on the platform. Now, after this happened, a talk show host named Stephen Crowder started making jokes at Maz's expense because of his ethnicity and his sexual orientation. And they basically, YouTube, they did respond to this and they updated their policies, basically they included all this, and they basically stripped monetization from lots of accounts and basically getting rid of even more accounts because of hate speech. So several channels such as Black Pigeon Speaks, The Golden One, Crowder himself and a dozen other political channels basically got all monetization removed from their channel, and they were banned from doing so, and they weren't making any money from it anymore. A couple of channels were actually completely banned as well, including a musician, survivalist, writer and felon Varg Vikernes, and he was terminated entirely from YouTube because of hate speech. And so in December 2019, YouTube updated their policy once again, and it was basically for anti-harassment and bullying, which I suppose is fair enough. And this was probably made because of all this shit going down that happened in May 2019. So this policy was actually praised by quite a lot of people. Obviously, it made it hard for people to harass creators, or harder for people to harass creators, which is good. And some people, they didn't like it at all. They just said, oh, it's unnecessary. There's no point doing that. It's not that bad. And basically, it could be running the risk of people getting their channels demonetized and terminated with no reason to do so. Now, some of you might remember Content Cop's video about Leafy is here. Do you remember those good old days when Leafy existed? So do I. Now, basically, he exposed Leafy's behaviour on a YouTube video, and Leafy responded to it, of course. However, while Content Cop's video was taken down, Leafy's was not, and Leafy was left to roam the channel for a little bit more time after that. Now, Leafy, he was untouched by the guidelines for a while. I think did he delete his channel? Either that or he got banned, like, from YouTube. I don't know. I stopped watching him because it just became fucking cringy. Sorry, but it did. Yeah, it would just useless shit that he started talking about, but we won't go into that because that's probably against YouTube's guidelines for anti-harassment and bullying, so we're not going to talk about that. Now, another channel that was left untouched by this, and is still untouched to this day, is Onizium. And we're not going to talk about him either, because yeah, we don't want to end up on Keemstar's channel causing YouTube drama. We won't do any of that. So yeah, that's basically the YouTube Adpocalypse explained, the full thing. Obviously I didn't go into a ton of detail from here. I just tried to sort of switch it up a little bit. In fact, while we're here, I'm going to check if Leafy is still on the channel on YouTube. Leafy is here. Yeah, no, he's gone. He got banned. It looks like he got banned about 10 months ago, anyway. It was probably well deserved. He probably went a step too far and said some shit. I mean, like, I stopped watching him in 2019 because it just sort of made me cringe a little bit. So yeah, let's get ready for Adpocalypse 5, I guess. And with that, thanks for watching the very first episode of the YouTube Iceberg. I hope I tried to make this as interesting as possible for you guys. I mean, I tried my best to include a few funny parts and all that. But yeah, I just wanted to explain in detail what it were about. Just for anybody who was interested in it, really. So yeah, with that, Thanks for watching. Subscribe and click that little bell if you want to see the future videos coming up. The next one will be up in 2 days. And I hope you guys enjoyed. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.